Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video I'm going hunting for VIRIZION in the Open Ultra League with my brand new level 50 Ariados. As you may know, this season in the Open Ultra League, Leaf Blade Sacred Sword VIRIZION is absolutely everywhere, so I decided to have some fun and power up a Pokemon that is a nightmare for that moveset on VIRIZION, level 50 Ariados. Level 50 Ariados only gets to 2003 CP, so not a Pokemon that you should use, but I'm not going to let that stop me. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out level 50 Ariados in the Open Ultra League. Hopping to the first match, leading Swampert into Heliolisk. Despite the massive type advantage for Swampert, Heliolisk can run Grass Knot, and Grass Knot would of course easily one-shot the Swampert. I'm farming up and firing off the Hydro Cannon. Helio will commit the shield. They do have enough for the Grass Knot here, so I will respect it with a shield. Opponent only ends up going for the Breaking Swipe. They save switch into an Ultra League Superior. Look at the spice from the opponent. Oh my goodness. And I'm going to respond with Wheezing. Superior, of course, does have access to Aerial Ace, so under no circumstances was I bringing in the Ariados. No baits here. I'm going straight for the Overheat. Overheat will be shielded by the Superior. So Superior looking to potentially make a play for switch advantage here. They're going to go for the Resisted Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant, even when resisted, does quite a lot of damage. I'm now going for the 2 stages debuffed Overheat. This will still do quite a lot of damage to the Superior. Now the question is, can an Overheat at -4 KO? And can I live this Frenzy Plant? Frenzy Plant barely will not KO the high-ranked Galar Weezing, able to hang on, make it to the quad debuffed Overheat, and that will be enough to KO Superior. Back in comes Heliolisk. Heliolisk will be met with a Hydro Cannon from Swampert. Swampert will be able to get Helio quite low. Helio firing off a charge move, and I'm going to let this through. Even if it's Grass Knot, I'm trusting in Ariados. It's the Breaking Swipe in the back. It's VIRIZION, and VIRIZION should be absolutely walled by Ariados. In previous seasons, a lot of VIRIZION ran Stone Edge, but this season, they're all on Leaf Blade and Sacred Sword. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Hopping into the first match, we see a great lead. Swampert into Galarian Weezing. Opponent save switches into a Shadow Charizard, and this game is off to an amazing start. I fire off the Hydro that will be shielded by the Charizard. Charizard is probably going to go for the CMP tie. I'm just going to go for the extra here. They can fire off the charge move. It's the Blast Burn. I can throw 1 in my move, but I accidentally overfarm 1 too many, and I play to a CMP tie that I do not win. And suddenly, a favorable position is dramatically less favorable due to that massive mistake. Because now my opponent is happy to let the Charizard go, as they've nearly KO'd my Swampert. Let's see, what is that final Pokemon? Opponent sends in Greninja. I have to switch out. I'm going to send in Weezing. My energy is walled here, but the Fairy Winds are hitting for super effective damage, and the fact that I aggressively switched in might make them think that I have Play Rough. The bluff works. Opponent switches out of the Greninja, and my energy is a lot more useful going into their Weezing. Overheat connects. That does quite a lot of damage. I'm now going for Overheat number 2. This one is debuff, but it will get their Weezing very low. They're going to have to go for an Overheat to get the KO here. Opponent overfarms a bit too much, and I'm able to make it to the Brutal Swing. This is quad debuffed and resisted, but it will still get the KO. In comes Greninja. I'm going to switch into the Swampert. The threat of a potential Earthquake is going to force energy from the opponent. They go for the Night Slash. Does Greninja get the boost? They do not. And now it's time for level 50 Ariados. I'm committing the shield. It's the Hydro Cannon. That is a massive shield. I'm farming up with the Ariados, and I make it to the Lunge. Lunge not only hits for super effective damage, but it gets a guaranteed attack debuff. Greninja forced to shield. With the debuff, this 2000 CP Ariados might actually live the Hydro Cannon. And it does! Let's go Ariados! Ariados just cannot make it to the Lunge, as Greninja will fire off the charge move. It's the Night Slash. Night Slash gets the boost! Oh my goodness, but Weezing has stored energy, making the Overheat. Overheat may be resisted, but Greninja is just too glassy. The Overheat KOs the boosted Greninja, and that's a good game. Picking up a positive lead in the next match, Swampert into Alolan Sandslash. Opponent save switches into Cresselia, and Cresselia, if it has Future Sight, is a massive core breaker for this team. I'm farming up and firing off the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing will connect to Cresselia. This is a tough call to make. I let it go. It is just the Moonblast. So hopefully they are running Moonblast and Grass Knot. However, then honestly, I got a bit in my head and I was like, what if they're trying to 5-head me here? What if they actually had Future Sight this whole time? So I end up shielding here as Future Sight would easily KO, and it turns out it's just another Moonblast, so I 100% did not have to shield that. They're just going to fire off Moonblast after Moonblast in this matchup. I'm down a shield, but I can leave with energy, and an overheat should be able to guarantee a shield back from the Sandslash, or they just get one shot. Brutal Swing will connect onto the Cresselia. This is going to be close. I don't want to risk them making a move, so I'm just going to go for the Brutal Swing. I still have enough energy where I can make it to an overheat here. In comes the Sandslash. I make the overheat. They have to shield, or they will get KO'd. Overheat gets the KO. In the back, it's VIRIZION. And oh my goodness, Ariados has found its target once again. Cross Poison will connect. I continue to farm. They do have enough for the Stone Edge here. I commit the shield, but they're running Leaf Blade, and this is looking like it's going to be game over. I'm going for the lunge, just in case they have a Stone Edge. If I lunge, I can live the Stone Edge. Opponent is going to let that go. At this point, I think they just realized they don't have a win con, and Ariados takes the win. We see a massive Core Breaker on the lead in the next match, leading Swampert into Haxorus. And it's a Dragon Tail Haxorus as well. Oh my goodness. Opponent emptying the Spice Cabinet in this match. They're firing off the Breaking Swipe. That does quite a lot of damage. Haxorus, pretty glassy Pokemon. They love to shield, so I'm going for the bait. Hydro Cannon bait gets the shield, and now I will be able to make the Earthquake just before they make their next move. Earthquake would do a lot of damage if it lands, which it does. I go for the Snipe with the Wheezing, but the Haxorus hangs on with a fraction of HP, making it to one final Breaking Swipe. Opponent now going to send in a Mud Shot Greedent. Greedent lightning fast with the Mud Shots. Oh my goodness. And they're going to fire off the Body Slam. I'm farming up with the Wheezing. I'm going for the Overheat. This is already one stage debuffed due to that Breaking Swipe, so that's going to do nothing to the Greedent. Oh my goodness. Greedent is firing off another Body Slam. This will not KO, but it will get the Wheezing pretty low. I continue to farm up with the Wheezing and firing off another Overheat. This is extremely debuffed. Greedent takes it like it's nothing. In the back, it's a Shadow Poliwrath, and I send in Ariados. I'm trying to go for a lunge here because I want to try and lower the damage output from this Poliwrath. Poliwrath goes for the Ice Punch as I commit the shield. I'm returning fire with the lunge. Lunge will be no shielded, but of course I get that guaranteed attack drop, which is what I'm after. And now I can start firing off these Cross Poisons. Cross Poison is going to connect onto the Poliwrath. Poliwrath continues to farm. I make it to another Cross Poison. This potentially threatens a KO, so it grabs a shield from the Poliwrath, and I get the boost. Let's go, Ariados. I commit the shield. It's the Scald. Opponent switches into the Greedent, and Greedent is going to fire off the Body Slam. The Scald did debuff me, but I think I can get away with a Cross Poison KOing here. Lunge, of course, would do more. The Cross Poison does not KO, and I have thrown this game. Oh no, if I had gone for the Lunge, Lunge could have gotten the win, but Swampert and the Wheezing are just too low. I cannot make the Overheat, and I resign the match. We see a bit of a Core Breaker on the lead, leading Swampert into Giratina Alter. Swampert can do okay here, but I definitely have to stay in to start, as of course Giratina would absolutely obliterate the poor Ariados in the back. I'm farming up and going for the Earthquake. This does a solid chunk of damage. Opponent commits the shield. I go for a Dragon Claw catch. My opponent shows great patience holding onto their energy, but then an interesting thing happens. They stay in and they go for Shadow Sneak. It looks like my opponent does not have a response to Galar Wheezing. And if they're this weak to poison types in the back, that is good news for my Ariados. They're going to stay in here. They're firing off Shadow Sneak after Shadow Sneak. Shadow Sneak, really not a great move by any means. So this shows that they are really weak in the back. I go for the Brutal Swing. That gets the Giratina low. Giratina, with a fraction of HP, able to make one final charge move. It's the Shadow Sneak. I do get the KO. What do they have in the back? It's a Sylveon. It's Giratina Double Charm. Oh my goodness. Let's go, Ariados. In comes Ariados. There's some lag. Opponent sees the Ariados, and they resign the match. Moving into the next match, picking up a pretty solid lead, Swampert into Galvantula. Galvantula is staying in this lead, and honestly, that has me a bit worried that they're running Energy Ball, as Energy Ball isn't run super commonly, but especially after they no-shield the first, I'm like, oh my goodness, am I about to get one shot here? I shield at the last second, but it's just mind games. It's only a lunge, and now I'm down a shield in a winning matchup. That's extremely unfortunate. I will get the KO here. Let's see, what are they going to send in? Opponent, They're thinking about it. They send in Jellicent, a core breaker. I'm debuffed, so I'm forced to switch out, and I end up switching into my only counter. That's not a good practice, but I am running an extremely unbalanced line here with a level 50 Ariados, so sometimes you just have to make plays and hope they work out for the best. They're going for the Shadow Ball. That does quite a lot of damage. I throw one Fairy Wind and the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing, of course, hits for super effective damage, but it's a non-stab move. So, unfortunately, Jellicent is able to withstand that damage pretty well. I'm going to call the Surf here. They have to Shadow Ball if they want to get the KO, and they do. I'm farming up with the Swampert. Opponent firing off the charge move here. I believe this is only a Surf, so I'm going to let that through. That's totally fine. And here, I make a mistake. I go for 4 in the move, but that takes me over 100 energy. I should have just gone for 1 in the move there. I wanted to try and max out on energy, but going over 100 is really suboptimal play. I'm going to be shielding here. As my opponent fires off the Surf, no, in the back, they have an Air Slash Mandibuzz, and they're just triple strong against Ariados. Ariados had absolutely nowhere to go versus this team. I can fire off as many Hydro Cannons as I'd like, but XL Mandibuzz is just way too bulky. I continue to farm, I make one final Hydro Cannon, but it's not gonna matter. I can send in the Ariados here, but Mandibuzz will be able to make the double Aerial Ace. And at level 50, look at that. An Aerial Ace from Mandibuzz has never done so much damage. Oh my goodness. They have the back-to-back, and Ariados will get KO'd. Picking up a decent lead in the next match, Swampert into Pidgeot. Pidgeot typically means fighters in the back, and considering I have 2 poison types, that should hopefully be in my favor. I'm farming up with the Swampert, and I'm firing off this Hydro Cannon before my opponent can make a potential Feather Dance or a Brave Bird. Hydro Cannon will connect, opponent massively overfarming, allowing me to make it to a second Hydro Cannon. This will be no-shielded. At this point, my opponent is guaranteed to go for the Brave Bird, but I'm kind of okay with that. I'm just going to trust in the fact that if they have fighters in the back, my poisons can do well. They're going to snipe with a counter from their Surfetched, and Surfetched, hopefully, there's going to be a Virizion in the back, because that's what my Ariados is looking to see. They go for the Leaf Blade with the Surfetched, so Surfetched energy is walled here. This is fine. I can get a ton of energy on my Weezing, and I should be in a pretty good spot. Leaf Blade will connect. I'm going for the Overheat. Not really a sense in baiting. I think they're unlikely to shield this, and they do let it go. Opponent, they're waiting their timer here. If they send back in the Pidgeot, they're weak in the back, and they do send back in the Pidgeot. I'm firing off the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing will be shielded by the Pidgeot. Pidgeot just gonna full send the Brave Bird here, but that's fine. I'm trusting in Ariados. I'm trusting in the fact that it's a Virizion, and it is. Let's go, Ariados. Oh my goodness. I'm firing off the Cross Poison. That will connect. Opponent has built up to a Stone Edge. No one's had it today, so I'm going to let this go. They have Stone Edge! Oh no! And we lose the game. Hopping into the final match, picking up a positive lead, Swampert into Shadow A-Slash. Before in this matchup, I had just gone straight for the Hydro. This time, I decided to farm up to the Earthquake, but by doing so, you do allow the Sandslash to throw first. Sandslash goes for the Ice Punch. I built up to the Earthquake, but I am still going to bait with the Hydro. Hydro Cannon will be no-shielded by my opponent. They save switch into Tapu Fini, and I send in Ariados. Ariados, very fast with that Poison Sting Cross Poison combination. Cross Poison will connect onto the Tapu Fini. Unfortunately, we do not see a boost for the Ariados. Tapu Fini is going to be firing off their Surf. Surf does a ton of damage. That is the stat product difference. This is a 2500 CP Pokemon versus the 2003 CP Ariados. Ariados cannot make another move, and somehow, despite the type advantage, Ariados XL loses the zeros to Tapu Fini. Oh no, Ariados, not like this. Opponent sends in the Shadow A-Slash, but I have a ton of energy on the Weezing from farming down that Fini. Brutal Swing leaves them on 1 HP in the back. It's Defense Deoxys, and things are looking incredibly good for this Galarian Weezing to close out the game. Brutal Swing is shielded. I go for Brutal Swing number 2, and that's a CMP tie. I did not see the counter sneak, so that is the CMP tie. My opponent, Psycho Boost wouldn't KO here, but I am still going to commit the shield. My opponent goes for the Rock Slide. Oh, that is a bit unfortunate for me, and I'm going for another Brutal Swing. Again, this will not KO, but it is going to get the opponent extremely low. Opponent now into the red health. Psycho Boost from this range still not going to be enough to KO. They go for it. I'm able to hang on to the energy. I'm farming up. and then I'm firing off the Brutal Swing. This will be lethal. Opponent has a decision to make. They commit the shield. I switch into the Swampert. I go for the Hydro Cannon, but the opponent makes a beautiful catch, catching the Hydro onto the Shadow A-Slash. Back in comes the Deoxys. I make it to another Hydro Cannon. Swampert will be able to take the win, and the opponent's back line was just in a really rough spot after Galar Weezing got that much of an energy advantage. All in all, I had a lot of fun getting to run my level 50 Ariados. Level 50 Ariados struggles versus a lot, and a lot of that is due to the fact that it is 500 CP lower than most Pokemon in the format, so it just loses matchups, even sometimes when it has a type advantage, just due to its tiny stat product. So overall, definitely not a Pokemon that I'd recommend for climbing by any means, but man, getting it lined up onto those Leaf Blade Sacred Sword Virizions, and to see them realize that they can't do anything against the spider was absolutely worth it. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.